So yeah, so just you've seen the video, you've seen the really inspiring video. Yes, Catherine, it's a great film. Just to give you some background to it, lots of the footage that you saw was from a global action that the network did on the 11th of March this year. It was called Sacred People, Sacred Earth. You won't see many pictures of UK actions there because we were in hard lockdown at the time. So all the events that we did were online. I think you can see like there's a picture of a Buddha in one of the stills. So that was a UK action. Like one person was meditating in Cambridge in public. But a lot of it was from actions that were happening around the world on the 11th of March. And that was timed because, it was in the middle of the pandemic. It was before the G7. It was when President Biden first came into office and was making lots of climate commitments. So there were lots of actions that were designed then. This is the follow-up action, Faiths for Climate Justice, and it's timed to happen 2 weeks before COP26, the UN climate negotiations in Glasgow in November. And it picks up on the calls that were made on the 11th of March. And we have narrowed the calls for this part of the action because for Sacred People, Sacred Earth earlier in the year, there were 8 demands. And now they've been narrowed down a bit more, like they've been sort of distilled and summarized a bit. So I think the main ones are no more fossil fuels, no more deforestation, a just and green transition for everyone, green jobs, and finally reparations from richer countries to sort of help with the green transitions in poorer countries and the losses and damages suffered in poorer parts of the world in the global south. So we are very happy to support this as well, because these demands align very much with what UK faith groups are asking for from the UK government as president of COP26. So as Faith for the Climate, we chair an informal coalition called Make COP Count. And we've been meeting basically since before December 2019 to just coordinate what we are doing as different faith groups in the UK about COP. And we have 2 main asks out of that: an end to all use of public money to subsidize fossil fuels. And the second one is new and additional sources of finance for climate-related loss and damage. The first ask is basically, it's been in the news, and it's about asking the UK government to follow its own logic. It has said that it's not going to use UK export finance to subsidize fossil fuel extraction overseas, etc., etc. It's basically asking it to make good on its work and to apply that to its own domestic policies as well. So you've all heard about the Cumbrian coal mine that was quite controversial, that, the hearing is happening now. There's news of a new oil field opening in the Shetlands. So the calls are really asking the UK government to just be consistent. And then the second call it relates to something technical in the Paris Agreement, because a loss and damage is basically the kind of losses and damages that societies just cannot, no matter how much you stop producing fossil fuels, no matter how much you adapt our buildings and our structures, this is the stuff from the climate crisis that cannot be adapted to anymore. And so we have to set aside money for loss and damage. And this is disproportionately affecting poorer communities and countries in the global south. So that's the second call that we're making of the UK government, to be a leader, to set an example and really put out some new and additional finance for loss and damage. So Roche has pasted those 2 calls in the chat, and you can find out more about Make COP Count from the website. There are lots of downloadable resources. There's a calendar where you can look at the different things that are happening between now and COP. So this action, Face for Climate Justice, fits very well within that calendar, and the calls also fit very well. They align very much with Make COP Count's ask. So why 2 days? Why the 17th and the 18th of October? And why do we need something outside of the Great Big Green Week? So the Great Big Green Week that's happening next week and Climate Sunday, those are vital events and actions, and we are fully behind them as well as Faith for the Climate, and they are national. This is global. And on the 17th and 18th, what's going to happen is the first day, the 17th, that's more for public, religiously symbolic action. So places where there are lots of mosques, they're trying to get people to call out the azan or the Muslim call to prayer. Some people might be doing bell ringing in South America and so on. What most of the Green Faith affiliates will be doing is a banner action, either dropping a banner from their buildings or unfurling a banner or putting them up on posters and placards and so on. So why a banner? Because I think at this stage in the world where we are with the pandemic, we can sort of meet publicly on some level, but there are also issues with social distancing and making sure things are COVID safe. So we think that banner actions can invite public participation in a safe way. And even if not too many people want to come out, at least banners, if you put them in high impact places, they'll be very visible. So lots of people will see them at a very strategic point in time. And banners are also a really good way for us to show our specific contribution as faith communities. So if there's a banner in front of a church or a synagogue or mosque or cathedral or gurdwara, that's really powerful, all saying the same thing about climate justice. And the kinds of banners that have been designed can be adapted for different needs for different faith groups as well. And I'll tell you more about that later on. And a banner is just slightly different from the other COP-related mobilizations. So there will be other civil society mobilizations. There'll be a big, public gathering on the 6th of November, right in the middle of COP. So this just adds to everything else, but in a productive way, in a way that just joins the dots. And if it's a banner, like with some of our communities, we can't really mobilize hundreds and thousands of people in certain locations, but we can spread the word with photos, with videos, and with a social media presence. And I'll share a bit more about that. So the main thing is just use the hashtag, hashtag Faiths for Climate, whatever you do on the day, whether it's big or small, and that's how we'll create a noise. And so there are resources and toolkits that are actually available on the Faiths for Climate Justice website that you can use. And Roche has just pasted a link to those in the chat. So that's the 17th of October. We'll be coordinating that. And that's why it's good to have all of you here so that we can tell you what we think the UK banner action could look like. On the 18th of October, again, different countries will be doing different things. So in Australia, which is the climate laggard government, they're all basically going to descend on Prime Minister Scott Morrison's office. And it's a national action for them. I think I'll show you the map later. Like in Australia, they've got actions registered in all their major states and territories. In the UK, what we're doing is we're working together with Christian Aid and some of the bigger sort of Christian NGOs in this country, Christian Aid NGOs in this country, for a kind of a stunt that's going to happen on the 18th of October. It's going to be interfaith as well. So this is where we come in, working with Christian Aid and CAFOD and Tear Fund and so on. First, there'll be sort of a walk or a gathering of religious faith leaders, and we're defining leader very, very broadly. Grassroots leaders, clergy, lay leaders, it doesn't matter, who will be going to number 10 or the Houses of Parliament. This is all still being planned, but on the 18th, we'll go there and try and meet the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, and have a handover of a document. Again, the call by the Christian aid organizations very much aligns with Face for Climate Justice. They have something extra, which is keep 1.5 alive. And that's quite important in terms of policy negotiations, I think. But, all of these sort of overlap quite strongly with each other. So they're happy to support this and we're happy to support that. And in the evening, there will be a visual stunt, which I won't give too much away on yet, because it's meant to have an element of surprise. But yeah, just watch this space. So on the 18th, we will have a power holders moment as well in the UK. And we'll do it in a way that's COVID safe, and we'll do it in a way that connects with all the actions leading up to COP. So that is it about Faiths for Climate Justice, just a background to it and what we're doing in the UK. And now I will hand over to Roche to tell you about the actions that are already happening.
Great, thank you, Shannon. So I just want to give you a taster of some of the actions that are happening all over the world. Almost every region of the world is hosting an action of some sort, and it just kind of underlines how Faith for Climate Justice is it's really an internationalist, interfaith, multi-faith event, and with climate change being a collective problem that affects us all, every community needs to be heard on this. So I just want to give you a taste of some of the things that are happening. So in New York City, religious groups are organizing an action outside of the offices of BlackRock, which is the world's largest asset manager, with a large banner that says, "BlackRock, stop financing the destruction of God's creation." In the Pacific, the leader of the Pacific Council of Churches, based in Fiji, will be having photographs taken on an island which now goes underwater at high tide, also calling out BlackRock for their complicity in the climate crisis. In Jakarta, the largest mosque in Southeast Asia, very close to national government buildings, will be unfurling a banner that says, "Destroying the planet is haram," haram meaning forbidden in Arabic. And the Catholic cathedral just across the road from the mosque will be unfurling a banner with a strong Christian message. So a real multi-faith action there. In Lusaka in Zimbabwe, there will be a multi-faith march to protest a massive mining project that is displacing local communities and polluting local drinking water supplies. In Dodoma in Tanzania, there will be an interfaith march opposing the East Africa crude oil pipeline, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard about. It will be a massive fossil fuel infrastructure project in the east of Africa that will definitely burn up some of our carbon budget and needs to be stopped. There are also plans for an action in Paris in front of the Total offices, Total being the fossil fuel extraction company, to oppose the East African crude oil pipeline that Total is involved with. And also, as Shannon mentioned, in Canberra in Australia, there will be a multi-faith prayer action outside the office of the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, and distributed actions around the country at the offices of various MPs in Australia. And in the UK, I'm really excited to be working with some of you here on this call. We'll be having banner drops hopefully in Wakefield and in Salford and in Manchester. And I'm really excited to be working with some of you on this call today to make that happen. And it's going to be a really bold message here from the UK about how we need to end fossil fuel subsidies and for climate justice. So we also, as part of building momentum for Faith for Climate Justice, have been doing some selfie videos. Myself, Shannon, Giles is doing one tomorrow, but myself and Shannon did one today. I think quite embarrassingly, Shannon is going to share them with you. Is that right, Shannon?
Yes, I'll be gentle and start with Bill McKibben.
Okay, yeah, so firstly, you may have heard of Bill McKibben. We can watch his message first, and then you can hear our slightly more embarrassing messages.
They're not that embarrassing. I'll start with Bill McKibben.
Hello, Green Faith friends. What a pleasure to join you. What can I tell you? You've all been through this same summer. You understand that this is the moment that if anyone's been saving their energy in reserve or anything else, right now is when we need people out of the pews and into the streets. We need people from every faith community taking direct action to put pressure on governments, to put pressure on the oil companies, to put pressure on the banks and the asset managers and the insurance companies that are in the process of wrecking creation in order to keep their business model alive for a couple more decades. If we turn out in numbers large enough, then we can counterbalance the enormous power of their wealth. But you got to turn out, and I will see you in the streets. And I am so, so grateful for your leadership, for your action, for your faith.
So that is definitely something that people can get involved with also, even if they can't do a banner action and so on. That's one way to get involved, because you can do your own. So let me just show you what we made earlier. This is our Blue Peter moment. Okay, so just to spare Roche, I will start with mine. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Shannon Shah. I'm a Muslim, and I'm the director of Faith for the Climate, a faith-inspired network in the United Kingdom focusing on climate justice. Before relocating to London, I was part of the social justice and human rights movement in Malaysia. And back then, I saw that the governments and businesses that violated human rights and perpetrated social injustice were often the very same ones that were driving environmental destruction and climate breakdown. So I'm taking part in Faiths for Climate Justice because my faith as a Muslim demands that I stand for justice and that I back my prayers with action. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Trust God, but tie your camel." The climate crisis demands that we all come together in prayer, contemplation, and urgent action on the 17th and 18th of October, 2 weeks before the crucial UN climate talks in Glasgow. Join me. I think in the interest of time, we'll stop there. I mean, you can find Roche's tweets on our social media channels. So let me just start.
Thank you, Shannon, very much. So yeah, so St John's is, perhaps many of you know it, it's right opposite Waterloo Station. I always say we're geographically, sorry Catherine, but we're the most central church in London. If you cut out London and balance it on a pin, pin's just down the road. So we're trying to do something which is noticeable, which will make a difference, and which people will hear and will see. And so what we're going to do is we are going to unfurl a banner outside St John's. As you can see, we're currently being restored at the moment, so we can't actually sweep out of the church and unfold the banner. So we're going to be at our other church, which is St Andrew's, which is about 7 minutes walk away. And at the end of the service, we're going to process from St Andrew's to St John's. And then we are going to unfurl the banner, which I think Shannon is about to show us, which is this one. And we've chosen this wording. There are various possible wordings which have been suggested by Faith for Climate Justice. We've chosen this one, "No more fossil fuels, amen," which I ran past our standing committee yesterday, and they seem very happy with it, and they're very keen for us to put the banner up. And so we're going to unfurl it, and then we're actually going to put it slightly different from the position where you saw it just now. We're going to put it on the fence railings a bit further down. And we are going to put next to it some of these posters which explain a bit more about what we're doing. So that as well as the big message from the banner, we've also got some possible websites that people can go to, particularly the Make COP Count website, so that they can find out more information about what we're trying to do. So we will, I'm hoping we'll bring the whole congregation. We'll be walking along this road here. You can see the blue line that we're going, and we'll be singing as we walk. And then we will arrive at St John's, and that's the moment at which we will unfurl the banner, following a blessing. I'll bless it probably, or something like that, to give it a bit of religious input. So yes, what's next, Shannon? So we've created this timeline as well, which, do you want to talk through the timeline, or shall
I can go through it quite quickly. So as you can see, there is planning that needs to be done. So we've created like a project timeline just for the action at St. John's. And if this helps you, you don't have to use the same thing, but I've made a copy of the Google Sheet that I think Roche has pasted in the chat or will paste in the chat. And just feel free to make a copy. So this is how you make a copy of a Google Sheet if you're not familiar with working with Google Docs. You just make a copy for yourself. And we've added some tabs below this document. And you can see like we just have different timelines. I prepared this last week, so it's actually a bit more populated now. This is a copy, by the way, so if you break it, it's fine, because we've got our own copy that we use as well. But this is just to help you in case you want to plan and in case you want to get an idea of the different actions that are involved and the different milestones that you can keep tabs on during the week. And if you have other actions happening between now and COP, you can just integrate them into the sheet as well. And with the one that we've just shared in the chat, I think you'll see that I've created a sheet for our own media outreach. So it's not necessarily national media, but just the local media outlets, you know, the local neighborhood blog, you know, that sends a newsletter to residents in the local area. Could we promote it through them? Who are the different local interfaith groups that we want to reach out to, and so on. So you'll find that all on our Google Sheet. In terms of the banner designs, I think in one of the links, you will see like the shortcut to the Faith for Climate Justice website. There are actually designs that are ready to go. So the one that we chose, that Giles showed, is actually ready to go. But if you want to customize your design, just let us know, because the Green Faith has designers that can produce a banner to your liking. So there are suggested banner slogans as well that you can adopt. We're happy with this, so we're using this.